Episode 41. Can kiss be a punishment? She needed no props to fake her tears. They were real. Though she auditioned alone, she performed both characters in the scene. Everyone watching breathed deeply, feeling the suspense. The exhausted staff lit up with approval. After a full day of predictable auditions, this exciting young actress was like a breath of fresh air. She had finished the scene, but Zape didn't call it a cut. Jade stood in her spot, tears streaming down her face, utterly committed to the scene. Someone began to applaud, and then the room was filled with applause. Even Zape praised her. Well done. Well done. Everyone in the entertainment industry knew that Cape Sade rarely praised anyone. He seemed more than satisfied with her performance. Jade looked down, feeling shy. As soon as the scene ended, her anger vanished, and she felt like herself again. She nodded to Zape, wiping her tears away. Thank you, director, for giving me this chance. Actually, Zape wanted to tell her not to thank him. It was Dario, who sent someone to threaten him if he didn't allow her to audition, but Zape had promised not to tell her. He felt confused, though. Dario was clearly able to make this girl the female lead of the movie, but he wanted her to go through the audition. He said that he didn't care about the outcome, as long as she had a chance to try out. But this girl's skills exceeded his expectations. Zape, at first, thought that this girl would be a terrible actress, and he had barely restrained his contempt for her. But he was wrong. She was 1,000 times better than the other students who had auditioned today. He was so glad he had returned to the university. It would have been terrible to miss out on this wonderful actress. Where is makeup? I need her in the female lead's makeup and then costume. We're going to take a few photos of her, Zape ordered. Jade thought that the audition had ended. She didn't know there was a photo session. Zape said something about a reference photo for the movie. She stood stock still, hardly believing that this was really happening. Before she knew it, the makeup artist was working on her face and the costume director had brought clothes. When they finished, Jade stood before them in a Japanese school uniform, lightly made up, with a simple but chic hairstyle. The entire crew was transfixed by her perfect looks. The scriptwriter muttered to himself, This look is exactly the same I had in my mind. Exactly the same. It's identical. It's like the role was written for her. Cade Zape agreed that Jade was perfect for the role. Jade blushed and dropped her chin. Please, stop teasing me. Okay then, let's start the photo session. Miss Winslet, look over here. It was her first time modeling and she had no idea what to do. The photographer briefly explained what she should do. Jade's talent was so great, she picked it up quickly. She looked like a professional model. Cade Zape seemed extremely satisfied with everything. Jade was busy being photographed, discussing the script, chatting with Zape, having makeup applied and changing costumes. Before she knew it, the sky had darkened and the bright moon was shining. It was almost 11 o'clock when Jade and the crew finished up. Still, Zape wanted to treat everyone to dinner, including Jade, but she declined. She checked her watch as she ran down from stairs, wondering whether he was still there. How could he still be here at such a late hour? The campus was empty when she emerged from the building. The students had all returned to their dorms. Only a few street lamps were lit. Jade felt a strange disappointment. But just as she walked out of the university gates, she heard the sound of a car horn. She turned around and saw a familiar figure standing in front of the headlights. Dario had been standing outside the car at the university gate, waiting for her the whole time. Jade was stunned. If it were not for him dragging her here, she would never have had the chance to audition. She felt grateful and so happy. As Dario walked towards her, Jade suddenly had an idea for a prank. Maybe it was just the thrill of discovering her acting talent. For whatever reason, she put on a helpless, lost look on her face. Dario walked up to her and started to ask how it had gone, but then he saw her face. Dario stopped and stared, then pulled her into his arms. What's wrong? Didn't you get the part? Jade shook her head and sobbed. I didn't. The director said I was too immature and I'm not ready for a lead role. I'm sorry I wasted your time. Dario squinted at her, lifting her chin with his finger so he could look into her eyes. Seriously? Yes, after all, I don't have any Before she could finish, Dario pressed his lips against hers. She could feel his warm breath washing over her. What? Jade pushed against chest and struggled to break free. When he let go, she pulled a few steps back, covering her mouth and crying out, Mister, what are you doing? Why did this man always kiss her forcefully? Dario smirked slyly. He leaned close to her ear and whispered, That's your punishment. Then he kissed her again. This time, though, he kissed her gently at first, and then with an intensity that made her cling to him, as if he was the only solid thing in a giddy, swaying world. Her insistent mouth was parting her shivering lips, sending wild tremors along her nerves. She felt herself responding to his kiss. This time, Jade was unable to push him away. No, Dario, let me go. Jade was nearly in tears because of her stupidity. How could she have thought that the man in front of her would keep his word? She regretted tricking him now. With that kiss, Jade's head was spinning. He only let her go when she was about to faint. Episode 42. A marriage license at midnight? I was just teasing. The director said I got the part. Why are you still doing this to me? Jade struggled to catch her breath while complaining to Dario. She would never dare play a joke on him again. Dario's pupils contracted as he stared at her pink cheeks. He said in his deep voice, Oh, you got the part? Then why didn't you say so? About that. Jade didn't know how to explain herself. If she said she was trying to prank him, she feared the consequences would be even worse. So, she said nothing. Dario stared at her with his deep, dark gaze, as if trying to see her thoughts, preventing her escape. His seductive baritone surrounded by her ears again, now with a hint of satisfaction. So, you wanted the punishment, huh? That's why you said you failed. Of course not, Jade protested. Did he think she was such a person? Okay, then why? Dario asked. Jade realized she couldn't keep a secret from him. She had no choice but to tell him the truth, like a child who had made a mistake. She clutched his shirt with both hands as she lowered her head, saying, I only wanted to play a joke on you. I didn't expect that you would be so fast. To kiss her. She didn't even have a chance to explain. What's wrong? Aren't you happy that I kissed you? Who would be happy being kissed like that? Jade muttered. Dario once again folded her into his arms, with a trace of a smile in his eyes. There are many women who want my kiss. Dario spoke truthfully. Jade lifted her head and looked at him with mixed feelings. You're such a narcissist. Episode 42. A marriage license at midnight? I was just teasing. The director said I got the part. Why are you still doing this to me? Jade struggled to catch her breath while complaining to Dario. She would never dare play a joke on him again. Dario's pupils contracted as he stared at her pink cheeks. He said in his deep voice, Oh, you got the part? Then why didn't you say so? About that. Jade didn't know how to explain herself. If she said she was trying to prank him, she feared the consequences would be even worse. So, she said nothing. Dario stared at her with his deep, dark gaze, as if trying to see her thoughts, preventing her escape. His seductive baritone surrounded by her ears again, now with a hint of satisfaction. So, you wanted the punishment, huh? That's why you said you failed. Of course not, Jade protested. Did he think she was such a person? Okay, then why? Dario asked. Jade realized she couldn't keep a secret from him. She had no choice but to tell him the truth, like a child who had made a mistake. She clutched his shirt with both hands as she lowered her head, saying, I only wanted to play a joke on you. I didn't expect that you would be so fast. To kiss her. She didn't even have a chance to explain. What's wrong? Aren't you happy that I kissed you? Who would be happy being kissed like that? Jade muttered. Dario once again folded her into his arms, with a trace of a smile in his eyes. There are many women who want my kiss. Dario spoke truthfully. Jade lifted her head and looked at him with mixed feelings. "You're such a narcissist." But then she pondered it, nodding sadly. "But you're so handsome and rich. Maybe it's true that many women want you." She recalled the terrifying scene in the pizza place. She was feeling ashamed to be with him. "Right, Mr. Foster, you should go now. I have to leave. I've got a ton of things to do tomorrow." "Where are you going?" "Back to the dorm, of course." Dario frowned. He was worried someone might lock up the dorms again. "Before we go, let's go get the license," Dario said casually. "Huh? What license?" "Our marriage license. You really have a bad memory," Dario said with disdain, as if blaming her for forgetting something so important. What? Marriage license?" Jade lifted her head in shock. Did she hear him right? He said a marriage license? Though she had already agreed to marry him, she felt conflicted as to whether they should get the marriage license so soon. Seeing a way out, she said, "It's the middle of the night. We can't get it now. Mr. Foster, let's talk about this later. So if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving." Just as Jade was about to slip away, Dario grabbed her slender wrist and smiled mysteriously. "What if I say we can?" "Yeah, right. The circuit courts are government offices. Why would they be open in the middle of the night?" "Didn't that director come back to the university for an audition? Maybe the clerk's office might be open as well." Dario's eyes flashed with confidence and determination. For some reason, when Jade looked into his eyes, it seemed that all impossible things would become possible. "But I don't have my passport with me, so even if it's still open, we still can't register." Jade was secretly delighted to have found another reason to delay. But her delight lasted no more than a second. "I've already taken your passport," Dario said calmly. He seemed determined to register for the marriage license today. "What? How is that even possible?" Jade couldn't believe what she was seeing. Dario was taking her passport from his pocket. Her jaw dropped in disbelief. Oh my God. Was her passport not at Winslet Mansion? How could this be? How did he do that? "Do you have any other problems now?" Dario grinned as he looked at the speechless Jade. There was a hint of gentleness in his usually harsh eyes. "No, it's all good." He had even brought her passport with him. What else could she say? "Can we go now?" Even though it was a question, his tone was demanding. "Sure." Jade couldn't believe the clerk's office would be open so late, so she agreed to go. Before getting into the car, Dario whispered some directions to Lucas. Then Dario got into the car with Jade. At that moment, Lucas was utterly confused. Up until now, his only job was to be Mr. Foster's driver. However, ever since Mr. Foster had met this girl from the bar, Lucas's workload had increased. As they were driving to the clerk's office, Jade Zape called, thanking Dario for bringing him the perfect actress for his new TV series. "Oh, is that so? Who is she?" Dario asked deliberately. "Mr. Foster, of course, it's that Miss Winslet that you contacted me about. She's simply amazing. I've never seen such a good actress before, and her look is perfect. You have exceptional taste." There was gratitude and reverence in Zape's voice. "No, it's Jade Zape who has good taste. That girl has a bright future ahead of her." With Zape's years of experience, he believed that Jade would become a well-known superstar in the entertainment industry in no time. "I've thought the same. She'll be a dazzling newcomer. I have something else to do. Talk to you later." Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Foster. I won't bother you anymore." After ending the call, he noticed that Jade was staring at him with curiosity. She began to pester him for details. "Who were you talking to just now? Jade? Is that Jade Zape from the audition? And who are you calling a dazzling newcomer?" Jade was acting like a curious child, probably because she heard Zape's name and wanted to know more. "No, it was my boss. My boss. You misheard." Dario shrugged. Jade believed Dario when he said it was his boss. "Oh, I thought it was that film director, Jade Zape. He did say I did very well. I think maybe I'll be in at least 2 episodes of his TV series. And with lines too," she giggled, holding up 2 fingers. Jade was elated. If she were to act in a few episodes, she would earn a little more money. Episode 43, As Husband and Wife. Dario was stupefied at her words. Damn it! Had Zape not told her that she had the female lead in that series? But seeing her naivety, he couldn't bear to correct her. He let her dream of playing just a minor role in the series. If she was so happy thinking she had a minor role, she'd be on cloud 9 when she found out she had the lead. Dario burst into laughter when he imagined her reaction. Jade thought he was laughing at her minor role. She felt a bit angry with him. What's so funny? Jade pouted and grumbled. Dario couldn't resist poking her in the side and said with a smile, All right, we've reached the clerk's office. Let's go in. Oh. Jade was about to say it must be closed, but when she looked at the entrance, she was shocked. What was going on? How could it still be open at nearly midnight? The lights in the office were on, and there were people inside. I said it would be open, didn't I? Let's go. Dario was pleased when he saw her reaction. He took her hand affectionately, and they walked into the clerk's office. Once inside, the receptionist smiled warmly and said, Sir, Miss, are you here to register for a marriage license? What do you think? Dario raised his eyebrows. All right, come this way, please. Did you bring your passports with you? Dario began to pull Jade along, but she balked. She tugged on his sleeve and asked worriedly, Mr. Foster, are you sure you want to marry me? She still couldn't believe that this man really wanted to marry her. Of course, I'm sure. Dario locked his gaze firmly on hers. However, Jade could not stop fretting. She lowered her head awkwardly, asking, Are you really willing to pay for my grandma's medical bills? I might not ever be able to repay you. Dario tapped her head gently and said, Didn't I already say? I've already paid for her medical bills, and I don't need you to pay me back. He wondered, did she really not trust him yet? Jade felt relieved upon hearing that. She knew she could trust his words. As long as her grandmother was safe, she was willing to do anything. Victor Carson suddenly crossed her mind, making her feel anxious. She must not get Dario involved in her personal problems. But what about Victor Carson? He seems like a powerful man. Don't worry about him. You'll never see him again. Dario's deep voice reassured her. She looked down, missing the cold, dangerous look in his eyes. He knew Victor Carson was probably lying in the hospital right now, unable to father a child ever again. Are you still worried? Dario asked again, seeing her silence. Jade lifted her head and met his deep, coal-black eyes. She held up 3 fingers. Then, the conditions I've explained, you can't go back on your word, I won't fall in love with you, and I won't do that with you. Her face blushed as red as an apple when she said it. Though she didn't say the word, she knew Dario would understand what she meant. She didn't want to give away her virginity before falling in love. I'll respect you. With that, Dario kissed her on the lips. While she was still stunned, he quickly added, Under the conditions you've stated, you never said I can't kiss you. I'm a very trustworthy person. Jade was furious, but she couldn't resist. She just felt like she was always at a disadvantage with him. Jade went through the entire process in a daze, from filling out the form to taking photos and finally signing the marriage license. It took no more than 10 minutes. In the end, when Jade held the license, she realized she had truly married this man. Mr. Foster, since we've already gotten the license and there's nothing else to do, I'm ready to go back to the dorm now. Can you please send me back? Jade glanced at her right hand uncomfortably because he'd been holding it the whole time. Hearing her words, he clutched her hand more tightly, not wanting her to leave. He looked down into her face, his gaze softened and his voice deepened. Of course, you need to sleep, but not in the dorm, at my house. What? Why? Jade said in shock. Why? Why do you think so? Jade was speechless. How could she know? Dario leaned close to her ear and whispered, Today is our first day as a married couple, so it's our wedding night. Obviously, we have to be together. You said we can't share a bed, but you didn't say you wouldn't stay at my place. From now on, you're not allowed to go back to the dorm. Though he had already sent people to deal with those 2 girls who had bullied her, and he was not worried about her being harassed, she was now his wife. How could he let her stay in that kind of place? He flipped open the marriage license and pointed at their photos. Their expressions were a bit funny. Dario looked cold and handsome as usual. Very few men could look so good in a marriage license photo. Jade, on the other hand, looked like she was in shock. Jade felt the two people in the photo seemed mismatched. It was like Cinderella and a handsome prince. Do you see? We are now husband and wife. So, where do you think you should go? Dario peered at Jade as he caressed her delicate hand. Somehow, this made Jade feel even more shy. But I'm not ready yet. Can we talk about it after a few days? Jade smiled awkwardly, trying to put him off by stalling. But this tactic was useless against Dario. He turned around and pinned Jade against the car. Their bodies were pressed against each other tightly. Don't you want to be with me? This is our wedding night. Episode 44. The Wedding Night. When Jade heard his gentle voice, she felt like she'd been hypnotized. Perhaps his voice was too seductive. She found herself following him as if possessed. All right, then, she said softly. However, once she was in the car, Jade returned to her senses and shook her head. My God, what had she just done? Why did she agree to go home with him? She blamed his voice for being so seductive and gentle. This man must have been a demon in a previous life who had cast a spell on her. What's the matter with you? Dario held her fair hand as if nothing had happened and kissed it tenderly. Mr. Foster, I think I wasn't in my right mind and said something I didn't mean. Can you pretend you didn't hear me? Jade said with regret. Things had moved too fast. It was inconceivable that she would go to his place. After all, they had only known each other for a few days. Oh, really? If you're not on your right mind, maybe you need me to treat you? I have a secret cure. He leaned into her body and stared at her soft, pink lips. Poor Lucas. He was going to have to put up with them playing kissy face while he drove. Jade covered her mouth, knowing his intention. She shook her head and said vaguely, No, I don't need anything. I've said nothing. Whenever he mentioned a punishment or a secret method, it was all kisses. She would not be fooled again. The car arrived at the most luxurious hotel in Washington. Dario led her directly to the VIP elevator as if he'd been here many times and took her to the top floor. When they arrived at the room, Jade realized it was extremely luxurious and even bigger than one of her classrooms. There was a refrigerator, a washing machine, and every other daily necessity in the room. It seemed like a suite instead of a hotel room. She stood in the doorway and asked, Mr. Foster, why are we here? Didn't you say we were going to your house? What's the matter? Don't you like it here? Dario turned and looked at her, his voice full of charm. Jade looked around the room. Her eyes betrayed a trace of happiness and curiosity. She spoke honestly. I do like it, but it must be expensive. I don't want to waste your money. Let's just find another place to stay for the night. Or we can go to the place where you were staying before. Dario said lightly. Oh, that house belongs to my sister, and you've already met her son. Tonight was his wedding night. He'd be damned if he'd go back to his sister's house and let that little brat Leopold disturb his time with Jade. Jade stared at him with wide eyes as she said, What? That's not your house? That is correct. Dario nodded. The mansion was indeed in his sister's name, but he had bought it. Occasionally he would stay there. Or rather, he was forced to stay there to look after his nephew. His sister often travelled around the world, therefore, he acted as her babysitter. Not only that, but her son was his natural enemy. And ever since he saw that child's attitude towards Jade, he knew that child had found his natural enemy too. Then why don't you buy your own house? It's such a waste of money to stay in a hotel all of the time. It's totally not worth it. Jade never doubted his words. She trusted him fully. A hint of happiness appeared in Dario's dark eyes. She truly wanted to save him money. In all these years, people only wanted to spend their money. There had never been a woman like her who thought of ways to save his money. It seemed like he had found the right woman. All right, I'll listen to you. I'll buy one if you want to, but I've already booked this room today. Let's just stay here tonight. Actually, he owned this hotel. and he didn't need to spend a single cent to stay there. Moreover, this was his private room. No one had even entered it before. Jade felt a sense of tenderness in her heart when he agreed so easily. She wasn't used to anyone listening to her opinion. No one ever had before. It felt nice to be with a man who was willing to listen to her. It had been so long since she felt the warmth of home. The next second, she lowered her head gloomily and said, "Mr. Foster, I know we're now husband and wife, but you also know I'm poor. So there's not much I can do to help you buy a house, but I'll work harder and make more movies. Once I've gotten my salary, I'll be able to contribute to our household expenses." Jade secretly decided that she would work hard to earn more money so her grandmother could live a better life and ease the burden on Dario's shoulders. Dario was astonished when he heard her say, "contribute to our household expenses." The determination in Jade's eyes simply melted his ice-cold heart. "Why are you so cute?" Dario brushed her hair out of her eyes, then kissed her forehead and pulled her into his arms. He didn't want her to work, but he would not stop her from doing whatever she liked. He was willing to give her whatever she wanted. Suddenly, Dario's seductive voice sounded extremely gentle. "Silly, you don't need to worry about money. I can deal with it myself. All you have to do is the things you like and don't overwork yourself." He didn't know why, but he felt his heart ache when she said that. No one had ever spoken so sweetly to Jade. She blushed, feeling the heat growing in her cheeks. Bruce Stevens used to say similar things, but she'd never felt like she did now. When Dario sweet-talked her, she could clearly feel her heart pounding in her chest, as if the world had gone silent, and all she could hear was her heart. "Yes, even if you want to buy a house, it doesn't have to be huge and luxurious, as long as it's big enough for both of us to live in. It's better to be economical." Ever since she was a child, she knew money was very precious, so she didn't dare to spend it carelessly. The living expenses her aunt had given her were very small. If she spent a cent more, it was likely she would starve. She hated being wasteful. "All right, I'll listen to you, but let's discuss it tomorrow. It's getting late now." Dario hinted it was time to sleep. Jade looked around the room and realized that though the room was spacious, there was only one king-size bed. "But how are we going to sleep?" "Don't forget about the conditions," Jade said with her head lowered as she blushed. Dario didn't answer her. Instead, he led her to the bathroom. Episode 45. A divorce? How about a warm bath first? "I'll take a bath. I don't need you to tell me, but can you please leave the bathroom first?" Jade glared at him. Why was he in the bathroom with her? He couldn't be thinking of bathing with her, could he? Jade took a step backwards. Dario smiled, a trace of gentleness in his coal black eyes. He walked towards the bathtub and started filling it with water. When it was almost full, he said casually, "It's ready." Then he left the bathroom. The truth was, he knew she was exhausted from the audition, and he wanted her to relax in a warm bath. Jade was dumbfounded. What did he mean? Had he simply filled the bathtub for her? After waiting for some time, she realized that Dario wasn't coming back, so she closed the door and thought to herself, who cares? A bath sounds wonderful. Actually, she'd been wanting a bath for a while, and she finally had the chance. When she eased her body into the water, she felt so comfortable that all her tiredness disappeared. She soaked in the bath for almost half an hour, nearly falling asleep. Only when she got out of the tub did she realize that she hadn't brought her pajamas. She glanced around the bathroom and found only a towel. She blushed when she recalled how Dario had pulled away her towel previously. Jade had no choice but to put her clothes back on. She was shocked, though, when she stepped out of the bathroom. On the big round bed, an incredibly attractive man with 8-pack abs was lying on it. Dario was lying there, relaxing in his underwear. Jade was so shocked she covered her eyes and screamed, "Ah, what are you doing, pervert?" Dario glanced at her and said nonchalantly, "It's not like you haven't seen it before. What are you so shocked about? Besides, we're already married, so naturally, I'll have to sleep next to you." Jade peeked through the gaps of her fingers and realized that his body was perfect. She felt the heat grow in her cheeks. "What? You promised that you wouldn't ask me to do that. Don't forget the conditions you agreed to." Dario noticed her red ears and the way she peeked. He smirked and said, "Of course, I won't ask you. But as your husband, I should massage my wife, don't you think?" Massage? Massage? The words kept bouncing in Jade's mind. She didn't know how she could understand the meaning behind his words with her pure, innocent mind. She would really like to know how he could say those naughty words without feeling embarrassed. She glared at him fiercely. "How could you lie to me? I can't believe you." "When did I lie to you?" Dario leaned on the bed with a graceful gesture that was somehow full of temptation. Any other woman would have pounced on him already. However, Jade remained unmoved. He narrowed his eyes as he thought to himself, "It seems like I'll have to teach her well." "You clearly lied. The first condition is—" Dario interrupted her. "Number 1, I can't force you to do that thing with me. Number 2, you won't be sleeping with me. Am I right?" Jade nodded in surprise and said immediately, "If you remember, then why did you do that?" Dario stared at her oddly, with a smile that would captivate any woman. "I've promised you that. You said not to sleep with me, but I didn't say I won't sleep with you. Those are two different things, do you understand?" Jade looked at him in astonishment. Was there something wrong with her ears? What did he just say? All the knowledge she had gained in college had gone down the drain. You! I'm despicable." Once again, Dario said what she wanted to say. Jade was shocked by his behavior. Demon. This person was definitely a demon. Jade was now speechless, not knowing what to say. How could this man be so good with words? He was clearly bullying her for not being as smart as him. "Dario, you liar! I don't want to be married to you anymore. I want a divorce, you bastard." "All right, here's the divorce agreement. Come sign it." "What?" Jade had spoken out of frustration, but she didn't expect him to agree so easily. With that, Dario took a stack of documents from his bedside drawer. Jade glanced at it angrily and realized it really was a divorce agreement. She looked at the document and then at Dario. She suddenly felt as if her heart had been stabbed by thousands of daggers. Dario then took out a black pen. Jade felt like she had fallen into hell. She should have known. No way would such an outstanding man really want to marry her. Jade, you were too naive. It turned out he was the same as the others too, just toying with her. What did all these people think she was? A toy? All men were the same. Jade's eyes were filled with hatred, but Dario remained calm the whole time, observing all the changes of emotion in her eyes. "What's wrong? Didn't you say you want a divorce?" Dario noticed that she was not moving. Jade erupted, fires of fury and hatred smoldering in her narrowed eyes. She snatched away the black pen in his hand, then picked up the document to sign her name. When she signed, she noticed that Dario had already signed it as well. What was this man thinking? Did he plan to play with her feelings from the very beginning? "There are still a few remaining places. You have to sign every single one. Don't miss any of them," Dario reminded her, flipping through the pages. Anger boiled deep in her body, as hot as lava. It churned within, hungry for destruction, and she knew it was too much for her to handle. Divorce then. Who wants to marry you? Dario, let me tell you, I, Jade, am no longer a pushover. I just hope that you won't play with others' feelings in the future. Some people couldn't handle being hurt. In the end, she swallowed back her words because she knew that she didn't have the right to say it. Episode 46. Can a contract save from a divorce? After saying this, tears filled her eyes, but she stubbornly resisted the urge to cry, not letting a single tear fall down her cheeks. However, what Dario said the next second almost made her faint. When did I play with your feelings? You went to register for a marriage license with me, then divorced me. If that isn't playing with my feelings, then what is it? All you rich people are the same. I never want to see you again. Leave. Jade threw the agreement onto his chest, and only then remembered that the hotel room was his. She turned around and said, No, I'll be leaving. When Dario saw her furious look, he got off the bed and hugged her from behind. Jade struggled, thinking he was still trying to play around with her, so she became angrier. What are you doing? Let go of me, you bastard! Let go of me! After knowing his true colors, Jade didn't even bother to treat him nicely anymore. She reached out her finger and scratched him with her nails, leaving silvery pink stripes on his arms. At first, he said nothing, but then Dario's expression changed drastically, and he grabbed her hand with force. His voice had become deeper than ever. Stop moving! Why should she listen to him? Jade was about to struggle again when she suddenly felt something was wrong. Even though she was in her jeans, she could feel something hot and hard pressing against her backside. Because she had experienced this before, she understood what was touching her. She froze in her position, not daring to move. Then she swallowed as she felt that thing behind her getting larger and harder, leaving her unsure where to put her hands. She could also clearly feel that his breathing was getting more ragged. Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Do what on purpose? Dario's face was warm as he pressed close to her ear, and he whispered in a deep voice. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm leaving. After all, we're already divorced. Just when Jade was about to break free from his embrace, Dario pulled her back onto the bed and pinned her down. He then subsequently forced her to look at the agreement. Silly, you better look closely at what you've signed. He smiled mysteriously after saying that. Jade felt that something was not right. She carefully read through the agreement and realized that he had fooled her again. The title said it was a divorce agreement, but the contents were not. The first page was that of a divorce agreement, but it was only one page. It was not only incomplete, but it also had no legal effect. Moreover, the page she signed was not the divorce agreement, but a marriage contract. The contents of the contract stated that they both had to sleep in the same bed once married. Without his permission, she couldn't ask for a divorce. Most importantly, they had to do what a husband and wife should do. Jade's face turned pale. What was going on? What had she signed? She felt she'd been tricked, and her face got whiter and whiter as she read the contract. Do you see clearly now? Your conditions were just a verbal contract, which has no legal force. But mine does. Dario smiled triumphantly. Just as Jade was about to snatch the contract and tear it up, Dario grabbed it back and held it up high so she couldn't reach it. So this was why he was covering the contents of the contract when he asked her to sign. She was furious that she had signed it without reading through it. Jade was filled with regret, but she couldn't undo it. Then she remembered that she had signed another document too. What was that one about? Bastard, tell me now. What's the other document I've signed? Dario took the opportunity to wrap his arm around her waist and pin her down on the bed. He whispered close to her ear seductively. Do you really want to know? Then beg me. I'll never beg you, bastard. Jade turned her head stubbornly. How could this man be so despicable and shameless? He had tricked her into signing that contract. But Dario's next move gave her the biggest shock yet. You! Dario pressed his erection against her. Because he was wearing only underwear, it was very obvious. Jade felt incredibly uncomfortable. That's the contract you've signed. So should we continue with what a husband and wife should do? Dario's handsome face looked terribly wicked. At that moment, all she felt was fear. She closed her eyes tightly, and a tear slid down her cheek. You promised you wouldn't force me. Dario's heart sank when he saw her distress. He reached out his hand and touched her lips. Jade kept her eyes tightly closed, but Dario moved away from her. When she opened her eyes, the lights were off. Go to sleep, Dario said from somewhere in the dark. Jade was confused. She hadn't expected him to let her off so easy. She carefully laid down next to him, but she felt so uncomfortable she couldn't fall asleep. Dario rolled over and hugged her. Don't worry. Every contract you've signed is for your own good. I'd never do anything to harm you. Dario smiled in the dark. Jade muttered to herself. Huh? For my own good? More like for your own good. Who knows whether the other contract is a slavery contract or not? The two of them sleeping in the same bed was the best evidence that the contracts were for his own good. Don't overthink things. You made me angry on purpose just to get me to sign the contract, right? This man was too despicable. He must have known that if he showed her the contract, she would never have signed it willingly. So he had thought up a way to trick her. She was quite pissed off. How did you know I wouldn't read the contract? Jade pinched his arm in anger, only then realizing that his arm was incredibly muscular, and she was the one who ended up in pain. Because you are dumb. You! Jade turned away, furious. Who the hell did he think he was? How dare he call her dumb? How was she dumb? Episode 47. He searched her for 5 years. Jade was so agitated, but why? Was it maybe because she didn't want to divorce him? No. Impossible. She simply could not be falling in love with him. The status difference between them was just too huge. She was mad that he was toying with her feelings. Yes, that had to be it. Mr. Foster, I've said that I won't fall in love with you. So why do we have to sleep together? Didn't I say that we could be husband and wife only on paper? Don't talk while you sleep. Dario's cold voice sounded behind her, so she stopped. The room turned quiet, filled only with the sound of breathing. Jade tried to fall asleep, but it was impossible. She was unwilling to get too close to him, so she kept scooting towards the edge of the bed. Suddenly, she felt nothing below her as she fell off the bed. Ouch, that hurts. In a flash, the room's lights went on. Dario sat up and stared at Jade, who was sitting on the floor holding her hip. He frowned as he stared down at her. Do you really want to sleep separately that badly? Jade bit her lower lip in agony and said, I'm just not used to it. Suddenly, she was swooped into the air. Dario had lifted her and laid her on the bed. Where does it hurt? Dario's voice was cold, but with a hint of concern. I'm fine, Jade grumbled, rubbing her hip. Seeing her like this, Dario's anger vanished. Come here. Dario pulled her towards him before she could think. Worst of all, Jade's hand accidentally brushed against his crotch. Dario's winced and his mouth felt dry. The fire that he had managed to extinguish was lit again by this woman. Oops, I'm sorry. Jade blushed deeply, but somehow accidentally touched his crotch again. Are you doing this on purpose? Dario held down the hand she was trying to pull back, forcing her to feel his heat. He wanted her to know that she was turning him on, and he hoped she would become interested in sleeping with him. I'm not that kind of person. You're the one who dragged me here. She'd done it twice now, so it seemed like she was doing it on purpose, but she really wasn't. But the more she spoke, the more embarrassed she became. Jade looked down, not daring to meet his eyes. She thought that Dario would surely do something to her because of this. Instead, after a while, he casually asked, Does it still hurt? No, not anymore. Then go to sleep. Dario turned off the lights, leaving Jade confused and upset. Just when she was wondering why he didn't bother with her, he turned off the lights. But the moment she lay down, she felt a hand rubbing her hip gently. This time, she really did want to fall asleep. But Dario pulled her close. Her face was pressed tightly against his muscular chest. It was awkward but warm. He didn't stop caressing her hip. Wait, you've touched me a few times now. Why are you trying to escape? Dario's cool words gave Jade a start. Though she knew that this was just the way he talked, she was still not used to it. After being with him, she felt like she'd become a bit raunchy herself. It's not like I did that on purpose. Are you that afraid of me? Jade couldn't read his emotions at that moment, but she could feel coldness in his words. No, I'm not afraid of you. I'm just not used to it. Jade lay in his arms uncomfortably. Then get used to it. As Dario finished speaking, Jade felt a warm sensation on her rear end. She started in fright, only to realize it was Dario. Does it hurt here? No, it doesn't. Oh, now it hurts. Dario rubbed it hard, then gently. Stay still. Stop moving. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do. Jade's body stiffened. She didn't dare move, allowing him to massage her as he pleased. She was wondering whether it was a psychological effect, because she felt quite comfortable now. Her hip was not hurting anymore, though her face was probably beet red. Right, how did that thing become so huge? That's incredible. Out of curiosity, she blurted out the question. Dario's face darkened and he pinched her rear end. A flash of desire appeared in his eyes. Do you really want to know? His deep voice sounded in her ears. Jade wanted to slap herself. Crap. What had she just asked? No, I'm going to sleep, so please let go. I won't fall off the bed again. Jade wiggled out from his embrace and lay next to him with her eyes closed. At first, she felt tense and uncomfortable next to him. Now, though, she felt comfortably drowsy, perhaps because of her long day and that warm bath. Do you still blame me? Dario pulled back his hand and covered her with the blanket. Blame you? I've already forgotten, Jade answered sleepily. Is that so? Forgotten? Did you forget what happened 5 years ago too? His deep voice sounded in the room. However, he didn't get a response, just the sound of her breathing. In the dim moonlight, Dario gazed at her long eyelashes as she slept peacefully. Jade, you must have forgotten that we met 5 years ago, because he was the one who saw her face, but she didn't see him. Thus, she must have long since forgotten about him and about what happened 5 years ago. Staring at her sleeping face, he thought of her from 5 years ago, thinking of how she had pleaded with him for help. For the past 5 years, he had been searching for her, but he never thought that she would actually come to him. Even more so, she was now his wife and sleeping right next to him. Episode 48. A Man Too Dangerous. The next day, Jade, who usually rose early, woke up rested and filled with energy. She stretched her body to warm up for the rest of the day. But when she saw the sun hanging high in the sky, she panicked. What was going on? What time was it? It's over. It's all over. There's a film shoot today. Yesterday, Violet had found her another minor role, which was worth $200 per scene. She had agreed without any hesitation and swore that she would arrive early, but now she had overslept, which was strange, as she had clearly set an alarm. Why hadn't she heard the alarm? She was sleeping so peacefully. Even if she hadn't set an alarm, Violet would have definitely called her. But why didn't she hear any calls this morning? Where's my phone? Jade looked around the room but couldn't find it anywhere. She searched every corner of the whole room, barefoot. You should put on your slippers. Just as she was getting into the search for her phone, she heard a deep voice. Huh? She turned around and realized that Dario had already woken up and was standing right behind her. The bright sunlight shone through the window and onto his body. He looked stunning with his sharply defined facial features. In the bright sunlight, he looked just like an angel. Today he was wearing an expensive white suit with gold buttons, contrasting with the shirt he wore underneath. The top 2 buttons of his shirt were unbuttoned, revealing his well-built chest with a hint of wildness. His slightly pursed lips sat on his attractive face as his star-like eyes dazzled. He looked as if he had descended from heaven, leaving men jealous of him and women crazy for him. How could there be such a handsome man in this world? Jade was mesmerized by his appearance. She was not someone who judged a man by his looks, and normally she wasn't all that interested in handsome men. However, today, Dario was so gorgeous that she couldn't tear her eyes away. It was hard to believe that this man had actually registered for a marriage license with a silly girl like her last night. It all seemed like a dream. Dario watched Jade, who was stupefied, with a bit of a smile. He walked up and wrapped her in his arms. Taking advantage of her inattention, he gave her a good morning kiss. Then, looking into her surprised and bashful eyes, he leaned close to her ear and whispered, "What's the matter? Am I too attractive?" Jade finally returned to her senses and realized how foolish she'd been just now. She looked like a love-struck fool. I haven't even brushed my teeth yet." She covered her mouth in confusion and said something at random. "Lazy? You've actually slept until noon." Dario patted her head with a doting look in his eyes. He didn't expect this sluggabed to be still sleeping when he returned from dealing with some business. Afraid that she might be awake, he rushed back after the business deal. I'm too tired," Jade blushed, looking extremely embarrassed. How weird. What was wrong with her? Why couldn't she speak properly in front of him today? Was she bewitched by his appearance? No, Jade, you must not forget about how evil he was. Jade realized that Dario was staring at her strangely, with a mysterious smile. While she was trying to figure that out, He suddenly asked her, "Are you cold?" "What?" Jade was completely confused. Then she looked down and realized she was only wearing her pink underwear. Damn it! No wonder he kept on looking at her as if there was something on her face. "Ah, pervert!" She screamed and dressed as fast as she could. Then she wrapped up in a blanket, popping her head out of it like a snail from its shell. Only heaven knew how aroused she looked as she was searching all over the room for her phone in just her underwear. However, Dario had seen it all. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to force her to do something she disliked, he would have already made love to her. Last night, he had to take a few cold baths to extinguish the fire within him. "Bastard! Say, did you take off my clothes? You pervert! Shameless!" Jade glared at him with her big round eyes, cursing him with every single word she could think of. Who wears clothes to sleep? Facing the furious Jade, Dario was much calmer. No, more like he thought it was normal. "You? How could that be true?" When she thought about how he took off her clothes while she was sleeping, the anger deep within her was boiling, as if a volcano was about to erupt. No, she must never sleep with him again. This man was too dangerous. Dario dashed forward and pinned Jade down along with the blanket. Right now, she was wrapped up just like a bear, looking so adorable. "It's uncomfortable to sleep with clothes on. Besides, you're wearing jeans. To be honest, I prefer sleeping naked so I can sleep more restfully. Do you want to try it tonight?" Dario explained the benefits of sleeping naked in a serious manner. Now that he mentioned sleeping naked, it reminded Jade of how he walked out of the bathroom naked when they were in the hotel before. She had even seen his genitals. Not only her cheeks, but her whole face turned red. And though her ears had been hidden under her messy hair, it was obvious that they were as rosy as her face. No way. I don't want it. I'm not a pervert like you. Get out of my way. You're crushing me." Jade continued to glare at him with eyes flashing indignation and anger. Dario, however, acted as if he didn't see it. He shifted to another position and continued to pin her down, saying, "You don't understand. Sleeping naked is good for you. According to scientific evidence, it can treat various diseases, soothe your mind, and remove fatigue. Most importantly—" Halfway through his sentence, Dario's gaze suddenly became mysterious as he reached out to lift her delicate chin. "It also helps to enhance the relationship between husband and wife." Dario purposefully emphasized the words husband and wife. Jade knew exactly what he meant, and she felt embarrassed and mad at the same time. "Oh, you make it sound so nice, but you just want to take advantage of me. Shameless. Don't forget that you are now legally my wife. So, if I get closer to you, or if we get physically intimate, no one will question this or think it's abnormal." The moment he mentioned physical intimacy, Jade felt that there was no point to talk to him about it anymore. "You rascal, you clearly agreed to the conditions I set. And you said that you wouldn't make me do things I disliked." Jade kicked him angrily through the blanket, but she was afraid that he would get mad, so she didn't kick with force. "You also signed the marriage contract yesterday, and everything is clearly written on it. If you forget, I can read it out for you." Dario stared into her eyes, looking despicable. Episode 49. A cell full of diamonds. "You bastard. You were the one who deceived me. I don't even know what's in the contract." Jade was filled with rage when he mentioned the contract. Could there be a more contemptible person in this world? "Right. What were you looking for just now?" Dario changed the topic. Jade rubbed her head and remembered. How could she have forgotten such an important matter? "Oh yeah, I was looking for my phone. I have a film shoot today. I need to call Violet as soon as possible." Dario said indifferently, "Your phone? I threw it away this morning." She had set the alarm for 7 o'clock in the morning. The moment the alarm rang, Dario turned it off and threw it away. "What? Threw it away? Why did you throw my phone away?" Just when Jade was getting angry, Dario produced a new phone from his pocket and put it in her hand. He then said in a domineering manner, "Your phone was already broken. It's time to change. This is for you." Jade took the phone and carefully examined it. She had never seen such a luxurious phone before. She saw that there were many diamonds embedded all around the edges of the phone, sparkling in the sunlight. Jade exclaimed, "Wow, the diamonds look so real and beautiful." Of course, she had never seen a real diamond before, so she assumed they were fake diamonds. She thought that no one would be so stupid to embed so many real diamonds on a phone. What if they were robbed or lost it? What a waste. Dario looked at her calmly and said not a word. He allowed her to think the diamonds on the phone were made of glass. The creative design had been requested by a secretive, wealthy man. To make the phone look even more extravagant, the cover was made of 24-karat gold, white diamonds, and some black diamonds. It had taken the designer 9 months to make it by hand. The entire phone contained 600 white diamonds, a sapphire glass screen, and a 24-karat gold cover, which weighed 135 grams. He had only recently finally received the finished phone that cost a total of $1 million. How much does this phone cost? To be honest, Jade really liked it, but she was worried that he would spend too much on it. She didn't dare accept it. Dario looked at her and thought for a few moments. Finally, he set a price that he thought she'd be able to accept. $3,000? Who could have known that Jade was still shocked? What? $3,000? That's so expensive. That's my salary for 2 months. No, I can't accept it. Mr. Foster, you should keep it for yourself. Jade threw the phone back to him in fright, remembering her previous phone had only cost $500. Though it was slightly laggy, as long as she could make calls, it was fine. Plus, she'd been using it for years. Dario placed the phone back in her hands, with a touch of heartache in his eyes. Then what should we do? I've already thrown away your phone and probably can't find it again. You have no other choice but to use it. Then let's buy something cheaper. Jade lowered her head, not daring to accept the phone as Dario's gift. In the end, he forced the phone into her hands. Take it. What's the point of saving money if you don't spend it? Jade couldn't think of another reason to resist, so she accepted it. She was still flustered as she stared at the diamonds sparkling on the phone. She raised her head, looked at Dario, and asked fearfully, "Those things at the edges of the phone aren't diamonds, are they? This phone is so expensive." She thought to herself, if that was the case, she must not lose the phone. She had always been careless. What if she lost it? She was relieved when Dario said they were made of glass. After all, he couldn't buy real diamonds with only $3,000. Jade held her beautiful phone and felt conflicted whether she should give it back to him. But in the end, she returned it to him. No, this won't do. I can't just take someone else's stuff. If you don't like it, then throw it away, Dario said coldly. Well, no, that won't do. It's a waste since you've already bought it. It's just that I don't like to spend other people's money, so by doing this, you made me feel like I'm... Jade lowered her head and hesitated for a moment, wondering if she should say that he made her feel like she was being taken care of by a sugar daddy. But she was unable to say it. She remembered that her roommate called her a mistress and shamed her with other unpleasant words when she wore the dress she took from Dario's room. She didn't want others to misunderstand her again. She just wanted to depend on herself. Who am I to you? Remember, we are now husband and wife, and the property between husband and wife is shared. So, buying a phone is a totally natural thing. Besides, the reason I brought you this is to apologize for tricking you into signing the contract yesterday. If you don't accept it, it means that you're still unwilling to forgive me. Dario stared at her as he explained himself sincerely. He took away all Jade's worries and anger. Also, you don't have to do anything now that you're with me, including earning money. But I'll never stop you from doing the things you like. I love who you are. There's nothing you need to change. So, just being yourself will do. Hearing Dario's words, Jade felt guilty because she had kept scolding him yesterday. Yet, he had been thinking of her. She had clearly agreed to marry him, but she had laid down some conditions that were unfair to him. She grabbed the phone back and smiled at him, as if she had decided to accept it. You should get used to my existence. You're not alone anymore. Dario reached out his hands to hold her small hands. His eyes had become much gentler. However, for some reason, Jade felt fear at his kindness and gentleness. Mr. Foster, if you ever find someone else you love and want that person as your wife, you will leave me, won't you? She still couldn't understand why he decided to marry her and help her, but she knew it was definitely not because he loved her. That was why she didn't want him to treat her too well. She was afraid that one day she really would fall in love with him. "What about you?" Dario responded indifferently. I don't want to fall for someone ever again." Her heart had long since been completely shattered into pieces. Moreover, she didn't have the right to love anyone. She then sighed in relief and squeezed Dario's hand. "Mr. Foster, if that day comes, please leave me and I'll leave without pestering you." He had done so much for her, so she didn't want to cause him any more trouble. Episode 50. 3 minutes to change. Just as Dario was about to speak, his phone suddenly rang. He glanced at it and walked to the balcony to answer. Jade took the opportunity to find her clothes and then quickly walked to the washroom to change. But when she came out, Dario was holding up another dress and looking at her. "Put it on," Dario said in a commanding tone. Jade held her breath and looked at the dress in Dario's hand. It was an exquisite dress, inlaid with white lace, beautifully cut. It looked so pure and delicate. Dario was also holding a red pleated skirt with a white butterfly knot and princess shoes. The design was fresh and elegant. The dress was simple and natural, yet everyone would have loved it. "Did you buy this?" Jade asked in disbelief. "Of course." "But you don't even know my size." This time, he'd really surprised her. When she finished speaking, Dario came up to her and put his arms around her waist. The corners of his mouth turned upward, making him look exceptionally bewitching. He leaned closer to her ear and said softly, "My hand is the best measuring tape. If you don't believe me, let me try." He touched her waist as he spoke. Jade was frightened and hurriedly stepped back, as her face immediately turned red. "Mr. Foster, please don't keep buying things for me. This really makes me feel bad." Before Jade could finish her sentence, Dario pressed his mouth against hers and pushed her against the wall and kissed. The kiss was even more forceful than their kiss that morning. After kissing for a while, Jade felt her body go limp and almost couldn't stand. Luckily, Dario supported her. "Let go of me, Dario." Dario narrowed his deep eyes and looked at her. He seemed to be unhappy. He hugged her tighter and tighter until Jade was almost unable to breathe. Dario refused to let go. She hit his chest with all her might, but her fists were weak from their kiss. Dario reached out his hand and pinched her delicate chin. He said coldly, "Remember, the two of us are now husband and wife. I am your husband. It is normal for me to buy things for you. If you want to be my little lover, then please do what a little lover should." "What? Don't you want to be my lover?" Jade couldn't help but tremble. She said with fear, "No, I don't want to be." Naturally, she knew what it was to be a lover. "Very good. I'll give you 3 minutes. Change your dress and shoes right away. Otherwise, I'll strip off your clothes and change them for you. Of course, I would prefer doing that." "What? 3 minutes?" Jade stared at him in disbelief. Could he be serious? She watched Dario as he spoke coldly. What he said scared her so much that she rushed to change her dress and shoes. "You still have 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Dario looked at the tightly shut door and a smile appeared in his sharp eyes. She didn't like to spend other people's money any more than she liked people giving her things. Although she was frugal, he had married a good wife. 3 minutes had passed, so Dario knocked on the door. "If you don't come out, I will come in." "Wait a minute, don't. I've changed. I'm coming out." Jade looked at herself in the mirror a little bashfully. It was not easy for her to muster up the courage to go out. She'd never worn a dress like this before. Or rather, she rarely wore dresses like this. "I don't look good in this dress. Don't laugh at me." The dress's size was just right, and the design of the skirt made her legs look longer. At that moment, her face flushed red, and she looked very pleasing. But her eyes were filled with shyness and embarrassment. Even Dario, who was known to be indifferent, was stunned by her lovely appearance. It seemed like he had chosen the right dress. It suited her perfectly. The design of the dress was such that around one shoulder it was covered, while the shoulder that was exposed was even more charming. Dario could not wait to go up and take a bite out of her. Jade saw that he did not speak. She swallowed, bit her lower lip and asked weakly, "Then I don't look good wearing this? Why don't I go change?" Just as she was about to go back, Dario's palm suddenly appeared on her slender white arm. "No need to change, just wear this. It looks very good." Really? Of course. Dario rested against the wall and wrapped her in his arms. They were close to each other. So close that Jade could feel his warm breath on her face. She felt his burning eyes and blushed with a smile. Why did you ask me to wear this, Dario? I'm going to shoot a movie later. Dario's voice was close to her ear and sounded especially hoarse and low. I wanted to take you to lunch, but now I want to eat you. He had to admit that his heart was palpitating. You want to go to lunch? I still have to go for the film, and I am not in the mood to eat. Speaking of filming, she looked at the time again and realized it was almost past the time Violet had mentioned. All of a sudden, she felt dejected. Sigh, if I were to go now, I would definitely finish filming, and it would cost $30 less. It's rare to need such a large amount of money to shoot a scene. When Jade said this, she seemed to be blaming him. Dario's mouth twitched. The phone she was using was worth quite a lot. The clothes and shoes she was wearing were worth millions, and now she was lamenting that she would earn $30 less. You really know how to ruin the atmosphere, don't you? Dario, this dress and these shoes are very expensive. Not expensive. $30, Dario said. After talking just then, Dario once again lowered the price as much as he could. Jade could barely accept it this time. Oh, $30. That's not expensive. But it's such high-quality material. Why do I feel that it's worth more than $30? She'd always felt that such a nice dress would cost more than $160. Jade's ability to recognize expensive brands made Dario feel helpless. It was not easy to trick Jade. If she were willing to take money, Mr. Victor Carson would have already given her $800,000 as a gift, and she would have been bribed away a long time ago. There were times when Dario was glad of her gift. All right, let's go out for dinner. Dario held her hand and walked outside. After taking 2 steps, Jade realized that she was not used to high heels at all. Episode 51. Jade's Face-Off with Ivana. Jade only wore high heels when she really needed them, so she could hardly walk properly in them. Dario held her tightly. Take it slow and don't be afraid. I'll hold you. I won't let you fall. His magnetic voice had something calming about it. It made her feel at ease in an instant. She leaned against his strong arm and walked a few steps. It was not easy for her to get used to the high heels, and she still walked a little unsteadily. By the way, Dario, I will try my best to make money to pay you back for this dress and phone. Although you gave them to me, I don't feel right about it in my heart. I keep feeling that I need to repay you. Being happy is my best return. No! Dario looked helplessly at the stubborn Jade. For the first time, he felt like admitting defeat. This was the first time. Someone said they wanted to make money to pay him back. Okay, when you have money in the future, you can pay me back, okay? Now can we go and eat? Okay. Jade nodded and kept a close eye on the road. Are you hungry? She asked. Jade was about to say that she wasn't hungry when suddenly her stomach made an awkward sound. Jade's face instantly turned red in embarrassment. She hurriedly covered her stomach so that Dario wouldn't hear. She was even more afraid that Dario would dislike her for it. He had clearly heard it, but did not react at all. He still calmly held her hand and walked into the elevator. Let's go, piggy. I'm not a little pig. The restaurant was set on the 2nd floor. Jade and Dario had just walked out of the elevator when they saw a couple sitting in the best spot to eat. It was obvious that the couple had seen her. The woman's eyes first showed surprise and then disdain. When the man saw Jade, his face betrayed that he was shocked. Jade walked out of the elevator and looked at the 2 people who were sitting there, together. She was stunned to see the spot, and her eyes were filled with anger and hatred when she realized that it was already taken. More so, the couple was none other than Bruce and Ivana, with a pale face. She reached out her fingers and wanted to pinch her palm, but found that Dario was tightly holding her hand. She never dreamed of finding these 2 at this restaurant. When Jade thought about how these 2 people had done such disgusting things behind her back and humiliated her, she wanted to go up and strangle them. Dario noticed the change in her eyes. He was afraid that she would do something that would hurt him again, so he deliberately clenched their hands together tightly and moved closer to her. He even kissed her on the cheek in front of everyone to show that they were very close. Ivana saw everything and immediately threw down the fork in her hand. She wiped her mouth and hugged the man beside her before greeting them. She pretended to be surprised and said, "Jade, is it really you? I didn't expect to see you in a place like this. Do you have enough money to come here?" One night at this restaurant could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Someone like Jade, who didn't earn much money, couldn't afford to come to a place so expensive. The contempt in Jade's eyes grew deeper. Her cousin thought she was a slut who liked to seduce men. "Jade, you're wearing such beautiful clothes today. Did you seduce a tycoon? Sir, be careful of this woman. Her mother is skilled at running away with rich men's money. Being a mistress is her mother's speciality." Ivana looked at Jade's expensive dress and the man beside her, who was even more handsome and stylish than Bruce. Ivana was filled with jealousy and hatred. Jade's expression changed drastically. She clenched her fist tightly. Did Ivana mean that she was Dario's mistress? She was already used to Ivana insulting her. If Ivana was only insulting her, she would not get so excited. But she could not handle Ivana insulting Dario. Dario wasn't that kind of person. Jade was about to step forward and teach Ivana a lesson when Dario stepped in front of her. "Jade is my legal wife." Dario wrapped his arms around Jade's slim waist and shot a sharp glance at Ivana. There was a trace of a meaningful smile on his handsome face. "What? Legal wife?" Ivana's expression changed when she heard this. She was shocked and could not believe it. Ivana wondered when Jade could have found such a handsome hubby. How could she not have known? If he had the money to come to a place like this, he must be rich. Bruce also revealed a surprised look. His eyes were full of surprise and distrust. "How is that possible? How can she be your wife? Do you have a marriage certificate? I advise you to investigate Jade's background, even if you're only looking for a lover. Otherwise, you won't even know if she's cheating on you." Before Ivana could finish her sentence, Dario interrupted her. "Whether we have a marriage certificate or not doesn't have anything to do with an ugly girl like you." As he spoke, Dario's cold eyes were very scary. His deep voice carried a trace of contempt and arrogance, as if it were natural for him to crush anyone who questioned him. "Ugly girl? What did you say?" Ivana almost died of anger when she heard this handsome guy call her an ugly girl. No one had ever dared to talk to her like that since she was young. "You are not only ugly, but also too talkative. Who let this dinosaur in? I'll fire him later." Seeing Ivana was about to explode in anger, Jade felt incredibly happy in her heart. She could not help but giggle as she immediately tried to cover that up and looked down when Dario noticed her. She hadn't expected Dario to be so good at making Ivana boil in rage. Even when he was angry at her, he was very gentle. Now he looked down on Ivana. For the whole time he spoke, he didn't even look at her. His eyes were always on Jade. Right then the lobby manager hurried over, his face covered in a cold sweat. Mr. Foster." When the manager said the name Mr. Foster, Ivana was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe that this luxury hotel that cost billions to build was owned by the man standing in front of her. At that moment, even Jade was shocked. "Did you let these two in?" Dario's cold eyes were full of sharpness. The lobby manager swallowed and anxiously explained, "No, Mr. Foster, just now, I wasn't here." "Okay, now, I'll give you a chance. Chase these two out and blacklist them immediately. Don't let them step into this hotel again. Do you understand? And I mean all the hotels belonging to the Foster Corporation." The lobby manager looked at Bruce and Ivana in a daze, and then at Dario. Then he called the security guards with a pager. Even a rich, second-generation man like Bruce was insignificant in Dario's eyes. So why would the lobby manager offend his boss for an insignificant person? Episode 52. Eat Me for Free. Since all the hotels in Washington were part of the Foster Corporation, Ivana and Bruce were no longer allowed to enter any of them. Bruce felt that Ivana was embarrassing, so he left in a hurry before the guards arrived. Ivana chased after him but was mercilessly thrown outside, into the elevator. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. She stared blankly at the elevator as it went down. She kept saying his name. "Bruce." Jade had taken a look at Ivana carefully, especially at Ivana's belly. If they had done as they said, she should be 3 months pregnant by now. But her figure was the same as before, and most importantly, she was still wearing high heels. Jade began to doubt whether Ivana was really pregnant. She wondered whether the whole thing was a scam from the start, and if so, whether Ivana had just lied to Jade or also tricked Bruce. She decided that she didn't care anymore because she had nothing to do with them now. Let's go. Let's sit down and eat. Dario's earlier coldness disappeared, and his eyes became gentler. He held Jade's hand and was about to go forward when he saw that she did not dare to move. Just as he was wondering why, he saw Jade look at him in surprise. What's wrong? Jade lowered her head and fiddled with her fingers. She asked softly, Dario, that person called you Mr. Foster just now. Are you the boss of this hotel? She was getting increasingly anxious. If that was the case, then he must be very rich. Dario whispered in her ear, I only have some shares. Although I have the least shares, I am also one of the bosses here. Jade nodded in doubt. So that's how it was. Having shares in such a big hotel also meant that he was very rich. She could no longer believe that the phone and the clothes he gave her would cost as Dario said. While she was still thinking, Dario pulled her into the best seat in the restaurant. This was his exclusive seat, and he could see the entire city of Washington. No one except him dared to take this seat. Order whatever you want. Dario passed the menu to her, but Jade was so scared that she froze, just after opening the first page. The dishes here were so expensive that even a piece of bread would cost $16. Dario, let's go to another place to eat. Jade looked a little embarrassed. Don't worry. I booked a room here yesterday so we can eat here for free. It will be a waste if you don't eat. Jade was relieved after hearing that, but asked, Is it true? Seeing Dario nod affirmatively, she believed him. He was the boss of the hotel, and the bosses didn't need to pay for their meals in their own hotels. As Jade looked at the menu, she recalled Dario bullying Ivana. She could not help but burst out into a hearty giggle as she said, Ivana looked like she was about to cry. Ivana had been treated like a princess since she was young. She had never been wronged like that night. When she was called ugly, it must have hit her hard. Of course, if you don't want to eat, you can eat me. I am also free. Dario narrowed his eyes and looked at her. She didn't know what he meant. Jade stopped, lowered her head, and ruffled her hair in a panic. She didn't know how charming she was to Dario, and smiled as she thought so. She then handed the menu to Dario and said in a low voice, I don't understand and I don't know how to order. You should order for me. The menu was full of fancy dishes. She didn't know how to order it. Dario didn't take the menu. Instead, he asked the waiter in the restaurant to choose the dishes. He was afraid that she wouldn't like the food. He ordered all the best dishes. During the meal, Dario was very gentlemanly and considerate. He prepared a spoon for her and fed her with his own hands. She blushed, and everyone in the restaurant peeked at them from time to time. Dario and Jade looked so good together that they were destined to attract discussion. Jade shyly looked at the spoon in front of her, but she refused to open her mouth. Don't feed me anymore. I can eat by myself. Everyone is looking at us. Although the people in this restaurant didn't go as far as those from before in the other restaurant who came over to watch them, Jade could still feel that many people were looking at her. Dario didn't care about all the people watching. It was as if they weren't even there. It's fine if you don't want to eat from my spoon. I can feed you with my mouth. After he spoke, Dario moved his mouth closer to Jade's. She was afraid that he would actually do it, so she quickly ate all the food with her spoon. If it wasn't for the embarrassment, she would have eaten whatever he fed her. After eating for half an hour, they were finished. Dario, can you drive me back to the school? It's almost afternoon now. If we wait any longer, I won't be able to make any money. After the meal, Jade anxiously watched the time. She still had to treat her grandmother. Every cent was important to her. What are you in a hurry for? Let's go for a walk first. But Dario saw that she was anxious to get going, so he carried her away. The people on the second floor were in an uproar. Jade covered her face from embarrassment and allowed him to carry her into the elevator and downstairs. She didn't dare to resist because she knew that the more she resisted, the tighter he would hold her. That would just make her even more embarrassed. When they were almost there, Jade hurried down. Don't hold me anymore. I will go out with you, Jade said as she pouted. After Ivana ran downstairs, she caught up with Bruce and held his hand. She forced a smile and pretended that nothing had happened. Bruce, where are you going? I'm still hungry. Let's go somewhere else to eat. Ivana's voice sounded sweet in his ear. Bruce pulled his hand away. His cold eyes showed disgust, and his tone showed he was irritated. My reputation is ruined because of you. When he thought about how Ivana had been called an ugly woman by another man and had to be chased out, he was full of anger. He wondered how Jade had found another man so quickly. She was a slut. She couldn't stay one day without a man. It was too much for her. Episode 53. I Won't Spare You. Ivana's eyes were filled with tears when she saw that Bruce was angry with her. She held her stomach and felt very sad. Bruce, how can you do this? You saw Jade's arrogant look just now. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. I'm the one who's pregnant with your child. Did you scold me because you saw that Jade found a rich and handsome man to be her husband? Shut up. When Ivana mentioned that man, Bruce's expression got worse. His eyes were full of displeasure. He really did not expect Jade to get married so quickly after he fooled her. He simply couldn't believe it. He thought that she would have been foolish enough to keep loving him and that she would have been sad for years. He didn't expect to see her with another man so soon. His anger was spiraling out of control. He felt that he had been insulted. Ivana looked at Bruce and was about to say something when she saw Jade and Dario walk out the door. She pulled Bruce's hand and tried to get him to look away. Bruce, let's go. Let's go home. But Bruce didn't want to talk to her at all. Instead, he pushed her away fiercely. Without thinking, he rushed forward and looked coldly at Jade. He said mockingly, Jade, you are really powerful. You have hooked up with a rich man so quickly. What's going on? Did the two of you really get married? Or are you just his lover? Dario acted as if he didn't see Bruce and completely ignored his existence. He just held Jade's hand tightly and carefully supported her. There was an elegant smile on his face, and when he spoke, he was also extremely gentle. Come on, Jade. Be careful, there are steps here. Then Ivana rushed forward and held Bruce's hand. She angrily looked at Jade, whose face looked sweet. Do you really need to say that? Of course, she is just a lover. What wife? Don't you see that they don't even have marriage rings on their fingers? As she spoke, her eyes were filled with disdain. Because she was angry, she didn't notice that they were actually wearing the marriage rings on their fingers. She couldn't believe that Jade was really married. For the last few days, Ivana had been out with Bruce and had not made it home. She didn't even know what exactly happened to Suzanne back at home. If she had, she wouldn't have had such an attitude. Or is it that your hubby can't afford a ring? If he can't afford a diamond ring, you could at least buy a fake ring. Then people will know that you're husband and wife. Don't the two of you look shabby? Marriage without a marriage ring? That's too funny. As Ivana spoke, she raised her hand and pointed to the diamond ring she was wearing. Do you see it? This is the ring Bruce gave me. 10 carats. Have you seen it before, loser? If Jade had taken out her phone at that moment, she might have lost her confidence. They just got their marriage certificate yesterday, so Jade didn't expect Ivana to already have a ring. Even so, Ivana shouldn't insult Dario like that. Jade was very angry. It was true that she didn't have the money to buy a ring, but Dario was different. Why should he be insulted by these people? She even felt that she had implicated him. Ivana, don't be happy too early. You and I know what kind of person Bruce is. He has replaced others. In the future, he will find a woman to replace you. Jade glanced at the ring on her hand. There was no expression on her face. There was only coldness in her eyes. Jade's casual words hinted at Ivana's future. Jade, what nonsense are you talking about? Shut up. You are the mistress. Ivana was so angry that her eyes turned red. Did I say you're the mistress? Why are you in such a hurry to admit it? Ivana saw her arrogant look and became even angrier. She raised her voice. She didn't look like a gentle pregnant woman at all. Jade, let's see if I don't tear your mouth apart. The people coming in and out of the door all turned their eyes toward the door. All the people who came here were famous and rich. That Ivana was pregnant was already well known. And now with this scene outside the door, the reputation of the Winslet family would be completely destroyed. Faced with Ivana's aggression, Jade and Dario just stood there elegantly. It was obvious to everyone watching who the troublemaker was. Bruce's expression became more and more ugly. Because he was afraid that others would recognize him, he hurriedly pulled Ivana away. "Remember this." Before Bruce left, he threatened Dario with these words. Then he looked at Jade angrily. No one noticed that Dario's eyes were suddenly filled with bloodlust and danger. "Of course, I will remember you." A cold and terrifying voice sounded in the air. Dario, what were you talking about?" "Nothing," Dario replied plainly. Jade finally let out a sigh of relief after they left, and her legs began to soften. Dario saw this and hurriedly supported her. Her entire body leaned against his chest. She'd been completely forced to endure the scene with Ivana and Bruce. It was only because of Dario's strength and trust that she was able to respond so harshly to them. "Let's get in the car." Dario gently stroked her hair. When he looked at Jade, he began to feel calm again. But Jade was even more worried than before. "Dario, I told you long ago that I have nothing but a lot of trouble around me. I'm the one who brought you into this," Jade said with guilt. Dario looked at her quietly and didn't say anything. He went up to kiss her. His kiss was overbearing, but she didn't reject him. He was still very gentle, and she couldn't help but be intoxicated with him. Jade was afraid that she would lose her mind. She hurriedly pushed him away and lowered her head shyly. "Dario, don't be like this. Look, there are many people outside." "You mean I can only kiss you when there's no one around?" Dario narrowed his eyes and stared at her red cheeks. "No!" Jade touched her hot face. She would always be at a disadvantage when she talked to him. "What are you afraid of? I want you to know that we are now husband and wife, so I will face everything with you. If you don't get in the car quickly, I don't know what else I'll do." Dario pulled her into his arms. His tone was very low. Jade heard him and immediately pulled out of his arms. She obediently got into the car that she'd been waiting for a long time. Seeing Jade get into the car, Dario dialed a number without any expression on his face. Before the person on the other end could answer, he coldly ordered, "Cancel any cooperation with Stephen's group immediately. Remember, all cooperation. I will give you 1 day." Episode 54. A New Home. From the beginning until the end, Secretary Jensen didn't say a single word. She only received Dario's orders and then he hung up. Secretary Jensen was stupefied. He made a big decision and then casually made a phone call to have it carried out. This was too casual. Her boss was becoming more and more capricious. After she finished ridiculing him, Secretary Jensen got to doing things decisively. Bruce's father never would have thought that he would personally destroy his own company because of a small action of his son. After Dario made the phone call, he got into the car as well. As they drove, Jade felt that something was wrong. She anxiously asked, "Dario, didn't you say that you would take me back to the school? This is not the way to school. Where are we going?" "Of course, we're going to look at a new home. We can't stay in a hotel all the time, right?" Dario smiled. Jade was shocked. He had talked about this yesterday, but she did not think that he would come to buy a place so quickly. We bought a house already? Dario, can you afford it? Yesterday, you bought me a phone and we stayed in a hotel. You spend so much money." Before Jade could finish, Dario put his hand on her head and interrupted her. "Don't worry so much. Leave everything to me." When they arrived, Jade realized that their new place was in the best apartment in the city center. It was obvious that it was a very expensive neighborhood. She didn't want to go in, but Dario insisted on taking her. David Swan had come as well, and he told Jade that this apartment belonged to his company, so he could give them a special discount. It would not be very expensive. Then he brought them to the top floor to look at the apartment. When they arrived, Jade realized that it was very big. It was estimated to be 200 square meters. The most important thing was that it had been renovated. There were 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, a balcony, and a study room. The living room was very spacious. What surprised Jade the most was that the living room was decorated in a style that matched her taste very well. There was a French window in the living room, and when the sun shone through it, the entire room was filled with warmth. It would be a very comfortable room. The scenery was beautiful, and if they moved in, Jade would be very happy. But one look at this place showed that it was expensive. Even if their friend David gave them a discount, it would still be very expensive. Jade hid her excitement and pretended to calmly look at the scenery. "Do you like it?" Dario held her hand and showed her every corner of the place. He watched closely the changes in her eyes. Jade didn't dare to ask for the price. She was afraid that he would say that she was ruining the atmosphere. She smiled, looked into his deep and charming eyes, and answered seriously, "As long as you like it, I like it." After all, he was the one paying. She couldn't afford anything, so she didn't dare to be picky, and she didn't want to be selfish and lower his standard of living for her preferences. Earlier that day, the manager of the hotel called him CEO Foster, and he paid $47,000 for her grandmother's surgery. She thought that he must have the money for this place, or he wouldn't have brought her here. Dario was expecting Jade to ask how much the new place would cost. He thought that if it was too expensive, she would leave immediately and not let him buy it. In case this happened, he especially asked David to prepare a smaller suite. But her answer turned out to depend on whether or not he liked it. She cared most about what he thought, and this change made him wild with joy. Jade was afraid that he would not believe her, so she held his hand. "I mean it, as long as you like it. Didn't you say before that money is earned, not saved? Even if it's paid in installments, it doesn't matter. In the future, I will work hard at acting so I can help pay the mortgage. The last time we filmed, director Cade Zape said I have a bright future ahead of me." It took Jade a while to finally muster up the courage to say these words, because it would be difficult for her to repay the mortgage. David was beginning to understand why Dario liked this girl. She was really different from other women. He was even jealous of Dario. But that was okay, since no one would snatch Miss Monica away from him. For his Miss Monica, he would definitely help Dario and Jade well. Dario reached out his hand and tapped Jade's nose. In front of David, he did not hesitate to be romantic with Jade. David's heart trembled. Dario was much more romantic than David had expected him to be. "Don't be foolish, Jade. I told you. You don't need to make money. I will support you." In his heart, David said, "Yes, Dario could buy this neighborhood. He has several villas, but he insisted on staying in this apartment." But David kept his mouth shut. Watching Dario show off his affection was really disgusting. David couldn't take it anymore. "Can you really afford it?" Jade was still a little worried. She didn't want to cause trouble for Dario. After all, she said she wanted to buy a house first. "Of course, don't worry." Dario's eyes were especially gentle when he looked at her. His tone was also very firm. His steadiness made Jade feel more at ease. As long as she was by his side, she felt very safe. "Well, then let's buy this place." If only she didn't tire him out and didn't cause trouble for him, she would be content. He was her benefactor, and the last thing she wanted was to bring him trouble. Not only did he save the person closest to her, but he also saved her. "You really are a little fool." Dario did not really expect her to be so considerate to him. "It doesn't matter. If I'm stupid since I was lucky enough to meet someone as handsome and rich as you." Jade self-deprecatingly accepted the nickname Little Fool. At this moment, David's mouth opened as wide as an egg. The key was that these two people completely ignored his existence. "Hey, I'll leave first, then you two can have a romantic conversation, okay? Have you thought about how I feel?" David really did not expect Dario's usually cold face to reveal such a gentle look today. Dario even leaned to touch Jade's head and nod her nose in such an ambiguous and intimate manner. He didn't care about how others felt at all. Was he dreaming? It seemed that Jade's appearance made him completely forget about the woman he found 5 years ago. His heart was already falling into Jade's hands. "Aren't you going to ask me this time?" Dario had a faint smile on his face, and he never looked away from Jade. Jade lowered her head shyly and said in embarrassment, "I won't ask as long as you like it." Dario then extended his hand and made an inviting gesture. Jade was about to ask him what he wanted to do when Dario suddenly bent down slightly. A gentle smile flashed across his eyes. "Then, Miss Winslet, can I now invite you to choose furniture for our new home?" Episode 55. The New Home and Grandma. Dario invited Jade to set up their new home and buy furniture, but Jade looked surprised. "Right now? But don't we need to go through the steps to buy the place first?" Jade asked curiously while she blinked. She had never bought an apartment before, and it costs a lot of money. She thought there must be a lot of steps to the procedure. Let Lucas and David handle that part. Let's go and choose the furniture. If we do it together, it will be faster, Dario said indifferently. At that moment, he looked very cunning. He still had something to say. He told her that if they bought the place, he would be able to live with her tonight. David said helplessly, "That's right, I'll handle all of that. Also, your grandmother has changed rooms. We've hired a special nurse for her, and she will take care of her 24 hours a day. The surgery has already been arranged. You don't have to worry about it, and the filming for today will be changed to tomorrow. You can go tomorrow." Jade looked at Dario in surprise. She could not believe that they could get so many things done at the same time. "Really, Dario? The filming will be changed to tomorrow, and my grandma will get the surgery?" "Of course. I said I wouldn't stop you from doing what you like." "That's great. Dario, you are my savior." Dario looked at her grateful eyes and felt happy. He smiled and leaned closer to her ear. He deliberately lowered his voice and said ambiguously, "Then, shouldn't you give yourself to me? Tonight will be the time for you to repay me." When he heard this, he emphasized the word repay. Jade heard the meaning of his words and immediately blushed. Just when Jade couldn't think of how to respond, her phone rang. When she answered, she was told that the 24-hour nurse David mentioned was Sheila Mason. Sheila was called specially to explain the situation. When Jade heard that her grandma was fine and would be entering the exclusive ward, she felt much more at ease. Furthermore, Sheila also told her that the success rate of her grandma's surgery was very high. Her grandma would be healthy very soon. David, who was at the side, looked at her phone and was very shocked. He quietly pulled Dario's sleeve and whispered to him, "Dario, why did you give her that phone which was custom made for you? That phone has many special functions, and there are many secrets of the Foster Corporation inside. Why did you give her that phone so easily? What if it disappeared? And it is awfully expensive. What if she sells it? If she was to sell it, she would be able to live a life without worries." Dario didn't say anything. He just gave David a fierce look. There seemed to be an unhappy expression on his face. David immediately shut his mouth. After Jade hung up the phone, she was even more grateful to Dario because of what the nurse told her. She held his warm hand and was so excited that she couldn't say what she was thinking. She knew that what he did for her was not something she could repay with a thank you. "Let's go." Dario quickly pulled her downstairs. When they were about to take off in the car, she realized Lucas had disappeared. Dario said that he would drive. She had never seen him drive before. Dario saw Jade's doubt and explained with a smile, "He has other things to do. Today, let me be your full-time driver. You better put on your seatbelt." "I know." "Let's go take a look at the bed first because we're going to use it tonight. We can choose the other furniture later." "Okay." Jade was still trying to find the seatbelt when she saw that Dario had already laid down in front of her. She was very shocked. She could clearly feel his arrogant aura. She didn't know why, but every time he got that close to her, her heart pounded, and she would always think of him kissing her forcefully. Jade shyly covered her face and nodded her head. What was even more strange was that she shouldn't be thinking about these things. These things were too confusing. The closer he got to her, the more nervous she became. Finally, she held her breath and closed her eyes. She pouted slightly. After a while, a sexy, deep voice suddenly rang in her ears. "Done." Jade subconsciously pursed her lips. She was actually feeling a little disappointed. Strange. Didn't he want to kiss me? Jade opened her eyes and looked at him. "What are you done with?" "Helping you fasten your seatbelt, of course. What did you think I was doing?" Dario said in confusion. Jade didn't know what to do when she realized Dario had noticed what she was thinking. She stuttered nervously. "I'm not thinking about that. Let's go," Jade said nervously. "Do you want it or not?" Dario suddenly became excited. "What do I want?" Jade held her hand tightly and did not even dare to look at him. "Do you want me to kiss you?" Dario gently bit her earlobe and used his tongue to kiss her. Jade felt a trace of numbness. She unconsciously shrank and quickly pushed him away. "Aren't we going to the furniture store? Let's go quickly. The furniture store will be closed if we take too long." Dario raised his eyebrows and smiled meaningfully. "So, you're in such a hurry to buy a bed." "That's right. If we don't have a bed, we won't be able to do anything. Dario kissed her ear as he spoke. The action made Jade a little restless. She began to breathe heavily, and her body reacted. This was the first time she had such an unbelievable feeling. Dario, can you stop teasing me? Jade's body couldn't help but tremble. She looked panicked, but now she was in the car, and her seatbelt was firmly binding her. Dario could easily catch her. Dario noticed that her face had turned red. He could not help biting her neck. He sucked hard and left a red mark on her neck. Jade closed her eyes tightly. She felt a bit of pain in her neck. She couldn't help but tightly hold onto his arm. She didn't know that this brought their bodies closer, together. Dario kept kissing Jade's skin from her earlobes to her chin, from her chin to her neck. He continued kissing and moved to her chest. Her chest moved slightly up and down, and her breasts and cleavage were bared. This visually stimulated Dario. Then Jade felt her entire body go soft. She felt her entire body go numb. She felt very uncomfortable and very restless. When Dario kissed her chest, Jade couldn't help but let out a charming gasp. When he heard this gasp, Dario was filled with the desire to make love to her.